Hi, Annette Lang here. Welcome to my podcast, The History of Personal Training, or at least my experience in it. You'll hear lots of my stories, and you'll also hear lots of interviews with really cool people whom I've met through the last 30 years that have been influential in my life, my experience, and the development of this profession we call personal training. Enjoy! Okay, John Hardy, it is so nice to actually see you and talk with you again. It's been a while. I've been doing these podcasts to where you just tell your story about how you got into fitness, and then, I'll just jump in how we met and what you're doing, what you did do, and what you're doing now and all of that.
Yep.
Okay,
sounds
cool.
Good.
All right, great. Because
cool.
I think, you go. You start. How did you get into this profession?
Okay, well, I was a really bad soccer player, and then I was a really bad soccer coach, and that's all I ever wanted to be.
And so you mean football?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in the UK we call it football,
right.
But I've done enough in the US now. I can interchange.
Right.
So, so the only thing sort of the area left was to study coaching generally, and with that came fitness. And this was back in sort of 94 to 97.
Okay. And how old were you in 94 to 90?
So 10? I was, yes, let's go with that. I just started uni, so I was 19 in 94.
Okay.
And so I went to uni to study coaching, still thinking in the back of my head that I'd do something in football. Okay. But what happened was, at the same time as I was going through my university career, the health club market just started in the UK. So I was right at the start. So I think in 94, David Lloyd was probably about 8 clubs.
Wow.
And by the time I'd left university and done a year in the industry, they had 30 clubs.
Wow. So and were they the first, basically, John? The first there? Right.
They were the first big club.
Uh-huh.
They were the first club that sort of could handle personal training. There was Fitness First, I think, were the first club.
Oh, right.
But they were like sheds with equipment in, whereas David Lloyd was spa and pool and tennis. And when we opened David Lloyd in Derby, we were like superstars in the area because you were a David Lloyd trainer.
Right.
So people would buy the blue card. They'd have the membership to come to our bar, never use the gym, just for the people they'd meet who were members of our gym.
Wait, at the bar, you're saying?
Yeah, just to use our bar in the club.
Right.
So we would have, say, the local football club directors and all the local footballers that were sort of big stars at the time all came into our club. So it's the place to be.
Right.
And after a shift, we could go into town, wear our David Lloyd badge, and then we get into pubs for free and nightclubs for free, and we were like superstars, which was really strange in a small place like Derby.
Right.
So I suppose, so I did my 3 years at university, and I travelled to the US.
But wait, John, what did you study at university?
So I studied, it was a BA in sports coaching.
Okay.
So it was sports coaching and fitness. And it was the first year that they brought fitness in as a Bachelor of Arts. And there was only really one module difference between that and sports science. And so I took a semester of coaching instead of a semester of nutrition.
Okay.
And that made me an artist, not a scientist. So so I fell out of the university sort of still quite young and not knowing what I'm doing, and I came to the US for 7 weeks. And
was that as a coach, right? Or
as a soccer coach.
Yeah.
So I was the representative for New England Revolution.
I remember when I first met you. That's what you told me that you did. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was great. That was doing what I think I do now, which was helping people get better at something, but in an environment that they really love. So that was kind of cool, but I had to grow up quick because it was only the 3rd time on a plane when I flew to the US. The second day in the US, I had to drive to Maine from New York. I'd never driven in the US. I'd never driven an automatic. I don't know if you know, but getting out of where were we? New Jersey, and trying to get up to Maine is there's quite a few islands to play with. So, but I grew up in those 7 weeks. So when I came back and took the first job that would take me, which was a fitness instructor in a hotel.
Okay.
And so that's how I started in this industry. So I did that for 2 years, and that's where I had to do everything. I thought it was really cool. So I had to clean changing rooms and clean poolside and stand on poolside. Do you remember the old motorized tables? I used to sit and watch those. So
wait, what do you mean motorized tables?
They were called toning tables.
Oh, the vibrating tables and stuff.
No, they just moved. They moved up and down. So you'd lay on your back and put your legs on 2 sort of independent leg planks.
Uh-huh.
And they'd move up and down, and you'd push against them.
Right.
And you'd press go, and on 45 seconds the person would turn over, so that instead of doing flexion, they'd do extension. And we used to have a really good sort of older population in on those, but there was no effort. We used to give them tea and biscuits, and they'd been to the health club, and we were happy.
Right.
So I started there, and that was good to meet people. But then when they opened David Lloyd, that's when everything started to happen. So in the first 9 months of David Lloyd opening, we went through 2 fitness managers, because the budgets were set on London prices, but they put the club in Derby.
I see. And Derby is it west of London? I can't remember.
It's north.
Okay.
But it's kind of in the middle of the country, just above the middle of the country.
Okay.
So you'd sit on a train for about 2 hours north out of London.
Okay.
And Derby's it's a nice place. It's really rural and big. Well, that was the first place you came to.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a nice place, but it's not massively affluent compared to London. And especially back then, the houses were a lot cheaper. The cost of living was a lot cheaper. That David Lloyd really was at the top end of everyone's budget. So to try and make personal training on top of that was quite tough.
I see.
Especially when I didn't really know what personal training was.
Right.
So the only information I'd been given about personal training was you wrote a poster, put your personal trainer on the top, put a little photo in the corner, and put it on the board, and someone will sign up with you.
No way.
And that was happy. So I got into the fitness manager's job it was around the September time, and it lasted. I was just hanging on to my job by March.
So now, what year are we talking now?
So this was I started at David Lloyd in '99 in the December, and I was manager in 2000 by the September.
Okay.
So, and not club manager, like manager of fitness,
right?
Aerobics, kids, and indoor and outdoor pool.
Wow.
So, but the big focus was on income and expenditure. So, it was. I think it's still like this, but you go from being good with clients to suddenly having to run a budget. But there's no interim, there's no time to learn it. You just all of a sudden you're an accountant manager. so I had to play at that, and luckily I'd already done my hours working with pools that didn't work and rotoring people, and I'm a coach, so running staff was okay. Right. But I knew I was going to lose that job, so I decided to fly to the US to go to URSA. Okay. So my first URSA was 2001. We didn't know that it's somewhere that directors go. We just thought it's something you did when you needed to know something. Okay. I didn't realise everyone just went there to play golf back then. So I signed up for every single lecture. And some of the lectures were really cool, and we went to the one where they throw the fish from Seattle. But the one that stood out for me was I went to a business seminar for fitness managers with Bob Asquari.
Yeah.
And I remember it vividly. He was the first presenter to walk into the middle of us. And I remember he was like this little angry New York guy who I was really fond of. I couldn't put my finger on why, but I really liked him. But I thought, I don't know you could ever work with him because he was just so precise and he just knew exactly what he wanted.
And intense, right?
Oh, yeah. So I watched this talk and I was kind of blown away. And I watched the business talk and then I went back to the hotel that night and I got Lisa to change her. So my wife Lisa changed her talk from, I can't remember what she was doing, but she changed to Bob's talk on assessing the squat.
Oh, she was attending the conference as well.
She was attending as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So at the time, Lisa was a nutritionist who was looking for her role.
Right.
And so it was a trip to San Francisco. We fancied it, so we did that. And so Lisa watched this talk, and I think Bob single-handedly put her off being a personal trainer. He did this thing. He put 6 people on stage. He got all 6 to squat. They all looked fine, according to Lisa, and then he just picked them apart one by one.
With his 17 points of something.
Yeah, it was I think that was the RMT back then, the 32 screens.
Uh-huh.
And so Lisa panicked and went and spoke to Bob straight after. And in person 1-to-1, he was so good with Lisa that she's quite shy normally, but she got chatting and he said, "Come and see me on the stand. We'll get someone from Reebok to come and teach 32 screens when you're back in the UK." And then he said,
"You're talking about the Reebok, the original Reebok reactive neuromuscular training."
That's the one, yeah.
Right. Yep.
So so it was the one with the core board.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, which was so. He came. He said this. He made the mistake of saying to Lisa, "If you can't find someone in the UK, I'll come over and teach it myself." So of course we went back. I think I'd only had my email address about 2 months, so I didn't know what I was doing there. So I think I called him and said, "Right, we can't find anyone." So he gave us a price, and I think it was him and his wife at the time to fly over, and they like to do business class. And if I did that, they'd just treat it as a holiday. So I collected 20 trainers together. We all paid £200 each.
Wow.
And we put it in an account, and then we sent it over to Bob, and then he came over with his wife. And then I realised I'd never hosted a presenter before. So I didn't know what I was doing. And so I ran this course without really knowing how you look after people. So Bob came down and he taught the 3 days, and it was mind-blowing. He sold some personal training on the gym floor when he was demonstrating. it just real Bob. He did the thing where he disappears at the end of the talk, and he'd been coaching me the whole time leading up to that. So we managed to get him to go out to Sherwood Forest, which I don't know he's too happy about at the time.
Sherwood Forest, right.
Yeah. So we just took him out and we bought him the hat. There's a photo of him somewhere dressed as Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know any different. And then, of course, he said, right, to pass this course, you need to fly a net over to come and do the assessment. And that's when we met.
Right.
And so, and it was that kind of chunk of time. So it was meeting Bob, then you. So we flew you over to do our stretching course.
That's right.
And then the 32 screens had turned into 5 screens.
Yeah,
and
the
so
5-point movement screen, yeah.
Yeah, the 5 movement screen. So you watch that. And then from then on, every year I went to Ursa, I had friends there. And we were the first club to do this. So our personal training just picked up. And we had core boards and Swiss balls. Nobody knew what they were.
Wow.
They were still using ab rollers, and
right.
The medicine was collected dust in the corner. And we started to do really well in personal training. So my wife qualified as a nutritionist and moved to London, and I followed her. And so that the next big step in my development, or part luck, part career, was that I went into a club in a chain called a Sporter.
That's right, a Sporta.
Yeah, and I think we brought you over.
Yes.
We definitely met you.
I definitely did the movement
game.
screens at one of the clubs, yeah.
Yeah. So we were in this club in Chiswick, and I started to deliver the same material,
right.
and we started to make some ridiculous sales. The system Bob taught me works now. If I show a trainer what to do, I just follow what Bob taught me, and then it just works. So, and it worked back then, but I remember I was sat in a club and a guy came to the front desk and he was asking for the fitness manager of it was of a Sporter. Now then, he called it Croydon Chiswick. And what happened was they'd written on his form that we were going to be in Croydon to see this new website, PT on the Net, and it would be the Chiswick clubs and the Croydon clubs in Croydon. Well, of course, Boydie had read the email wrong, or the email was worded wrong, so he just walked into my club.
Richard Boyd, who started PT on the Net, yeah.
Just walked straight into my club. And so we got chatting, and of course, Bob had told me to do the NASM, so I'd sat my CPT using dial-up internet, which was really hard. And then, obviously, at the time, PT on the Net were running the management for NASM.
Right.
So we instantly bonded, and then I found out that he knew you really well, and he knew Bob.
Right.
And then, so that was kind of my gateway into the industry. So from there, it wasn't difficult to meet people, and it wasn't difficult to get somewhere in the industry, because I had this sort of network that's been building for 20 years or 10 or 15 years at the time, just at my fingertips. And like I say, it was a mixture of Lisa dared speak to Bob. I didn't know anything different but to fly you all over. Right. And Boydie went to the wrong health club.
You did.
So it was all those things. But I remember when you came over, we took you to the Goose Fair with my mum.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah. And so it's very weird that... But I still do that now. If I bring a presenter over, they meet my family, and we go and play.
That's really great.
We don't do the formal thing.
So when did you leave the health club setting in England?
In 2002. So I did one more move. I moved from a Sporter to this little independent club back in Derby, and we moved to have a family. So it was a little club called Horizons, and it was a horrible looking club. It had a Titanic themed swimming pool. My first job was to kick out some local sort of, I think they were travellers, and they were drying their underwear on our sauna.
Oh my gosh.
And so I had to get rid of those, and then I put the personal training system in place, and I had people coming to my club to personal train with my personal trainers, but they were leaving to go to the David Lloyd for showers, use the pool.
Wow.
You would never stay in our club. It was just miserable. So that was my last job in the clubs. And then I moved to Premier Training, who are now owned by NASM. But at the time it was Premier. And
Premier is more of the education, right? Not a specific health club, right?
Yes. I mean, they really were the NASM of their time. In
National Academy of Sports Medicine, right.
That's right, yeah. So they would charge £4,000 for a course.
Right.
You would do 12 weeks in person, 9 till 5 days a week. Right. And then you qualify as a massage therapist and a personal trainer. They were just going through a transition because of the internet, because of the National Academy of Sports Medicine. Everything was going online. Everything was becoming more global. Right. And they were getting old. They were struggling to compete.
Right.
So I went into that organisation. I think they described me as an agitator.
Not you, John.
No. They said don't do anything different to what you would normally do. I'm not sure that's a compliment or I'm not sure what they're trying to say about me. But the idea was I was the first person to go in at a senior level who hadn't either been through the military or been through their courses.
Wow.
So I was just this fresh set of eyes. And
you went in as an educator for Premier.
Yeah.
Right.
To start with as an educator, so it was 6 months of teaching courses in order to move to the role of business development. And then it was my role to develop the business from beyond the qualification. So the CPD points, or the continuing education side of the business, was mine to look after, which was great because I got to work with Richard Boyd on PT on the Net. I got to work with FitPro.
Right.
And so I kind of brought those companies, they were working together, but I brought them through Premier, like this system could work.
Okay.
So that was my role for 3 years. And in my last year, I'd had enough. I'd had enough of the fitness industry. I'd had enough of the education in the fitness industry. It took me 10 years to realise what I really meant. But when I first started, I didn't like the aspect of fear that was driving education. So,
what do you mean by that, John?
So my description back then would be, if you don't do our course, you won't get any business. Or if you don't do our course, you'll injure somebody. Or it was, the first page on the NASM manual was, personal trainers will lose clients because without screening, they'll injure their client.
I see. And
it was aggressive and it was guru-led. And I was lucky. So I met you and I met Bob and then Bobby Capuccio. And I met the nice side of the industry. So at no point did I feel pressured to go and learn, but that drove me to learn.
Right.
And it was nice. You got from Bobby, who's an exceptional coach, and then you got Richard Boyd, who's very good at telling you very directly where you need to improve.
Right.
And you feel no kind of anger towards that, but it's always direct.
Right.
And you can work on that. So I was really lucky, but other trainers weren't that lucky. So their experience was turn up, have a guru talk at them.
Yeah.
They have got to try and retain 80% of that information for a test.
Right.
And then they can have the right badge.
Right.
And what that breeds is a trainer that's then angry if you challenge that knowledge because they worked so hard for it.
And also like I feel like not necessarily able to think. You know what I mean? Like I remember when I first started working with Gray and the movement screens, he used to say, you need a T-spine mobility exercise. You think of the exercise. And now when I go to teach at some health clubs, they're like, oh, which exercise? I'm like, well, come on, you're the trainer. Let's think about this together. Let's, instead of just telling you, do this, do this, do this.
Exactly. And that, I suppose I think that's always been your attitude when I've learned from you. And definitely Bob's and definitely Boydie's has always been, this is what you need to go and work out how you get better at.
Right.
And that's nice. It's not as convenient as you need to come and do my scientific back course.
Right.
But it's a lot better for you as a trainer.
Right.
So in my last year at Premier, I proposed an education program where we didn't tell the student anything. And instead we took them on a journey of questions.
Whoa.
And the idea was, so you pose the question, only like you said that you've been told, you pose the question, if somebody needed to mobilize a thoracic, what would you do? And my idea was, if you asked enough questions, and I borrowed this a little bit from you and Scott, to be fair, if you ask enough questions, you'll travel a journey that will bring you to the end where you're a good trainer.
But are you talking about my designer husband, Scott?
Yes, because when we first sort of started talking, Scott was talking about designing experience.
Right, that's right.
And you put together a really good explanation of that for a client, and that rang a really sort of that sort of flagged up in me that shouldn't that be what a trainer experience is? because if they did, that's what they bring to their client. So I wanted to build a program that was contentless. And yeah, a program that the client brought the content to, the student brought the content to, which makes them individual. But I suppose really what it's like having the group of people that helped me sat in a course format, asking all the questions.
So people paid you to help you get better at...
Yeah, essentially I got a lot better because the people I taught were smart and found things out.
Is that how your Faster program got started? Or
yeah, so the Premier turned down that program and they said it wouldn't work. We want a figurehead. It's not how we want to work as a company.
Okay.
And so I went and set Faster up. And Faster was, at first, it was almost a replica of the content from Gray Institute that drove it.
Gary Gray,
yeah. Question, yeah. So at the time, if you went to a Gary Gray seminar, he'd say, "Go and teach this. This is your stuff."
Right.
And so that's what we did. But what that drove was, because it was questioned, and then I'd answer with my influence, which was Gary Gray at the time, then obviously the course would seem to look Gary Grayish, because that was the person I thought was right. But I got pushed by, it was a number of people who were really good at research, like PhD level. They pushed me really hard to answer my own questions. And I wasn't getting the answers that the industry was telling me. So about 2014, just as I moved to the US, I was a mess educationally, because I had half of what I was saying was guru based, and it was based in techniques that I took for granted because I was learning them. I flew out to do a 2-day fascia course in Vegas, and then the second part in where was the second part? I think it was San Diego, and I came off the back of that and thought, these guys know what they're talking about. But when I looked at the research, they weren't asking the question that I needed answering. They were asking questions that they could answer. And it's kind of hard to explain, but
it's very profound.
Yeah, well, so this is why it's took me until now to really be confident on where I am back in the industry. But what everyone was doing was they were basing their training on fear, like in the same way they base their education on fear. So it got to the point where I was scared to train a client before I'd done enough screens to rule out them getting any kind of injury. But when I went to the research, none of that supported. And what happened was, for no bad reason at all, the things that happened to you after injury that the physio would then put right were presumed to be the markers that told you get injured. But that's not true. That doesn't follow any of the research. And when you look at pain, it's even less clear. So now when I do talks, I tell a story about free running, parkour. If you took the best parkour athlete in the world and you took all their stats, and then you took all my stats, then unless I happen to be taller than them, I've lost. Clearly I've lost in everything. But if you were to say which one of us is at most risk of getting an injury from falling off a building, I win. Because I'm never running across the top of a building ever, and they do it all the time. So when it came to injuries, the best way to prevent an injury is to not move. Unfortunately, the best way to prevent an illness is to move. And if you look at pain, the best way to reduce pain is to move without fear. So every time you do an assessment that's not required, you're also saying to some clients, "Oh, I don't know, I trust your movement, and I don't know you should." Wow. And so you've already started them down this sort of watch for what's my form, where's my movement, what should hurt. Whereas actually, if you said to someone, "How do you enjoy moving?" or if there was no restrictions in life, what movement would you choose? and then you create a version of that where they're successful. Then you have a client that's moving, so they're away from illness. And sometimes you have to say to clients, that you might get injured. If you choose to move, then you're choosing to do something slightly risky.
Right, that's brilliant. Actually,
it's not a bad thing. But so I just think, if you come back to education, I think people will get an education through fear. I won't get enough clients, I need education. I might injure my client, I need education. And then educators sell what sells. So if I said, I'm going to teach you a course, and this course is just going to show you that clients do move really well. Sometimes it looks messy, but actually it's doing them no harm at all, and it's better than nothing. Go with it. If I sold that course, I wouldn't sell many.
Yeah, right.
But if I said, I'm going to show you how to identify 4 different knee pains from one foot type, everyone's in. And the problem is, the first one's more accurately drew than the second one.
Yeah, that's a really great way of saying what your philosophy is, or
yeah. So see, the last time I think you saw my workshop, I would have done left-right symmetry, and I would have gone hands-on and hands-off and strength work.
Well, it always freaked me out in England how you guys are allowed to put your hands on people and mobilize, and we're not allowed to do that here. So that always freaked me out.
Yeah, so if you read the research on skill development's best shown if you watch kids. Mm-hmm. The best thing to do is to have some repetitive things you want the body to keep, and then keep putting them in different environments and challenging them in different environments.
Right.
And that means sometimes you'll fail, but that's fine.
Right.
And it's called, I think it's purposeful failure, or it's definitely purposeful practice.
Right.
But it's just having a go and getting it wrong. So fall off that climbing frame as many times as you like,
right,
as long as you're always running up it on your feet.
Right.
That kind of idea. So if you're doing that, your body naturally kind of defends itself because it doesn't know how good you are, so you don't work as hard physically. If you do something you're really good at, so you're not in skill development, you're in performance, you become better and better at that one skill, and it has less transfer to anything else, but you can work really hard at that one skill.
Yes.
So it means if you took a golfer that had never trained before, squatting would be great for them until it stopped being great for them, and then it'd only be good for squatting.
Right.
And it's that. So once you know that, you know your training's in 2 components. It's like, do I want you to get better at moving, ready to train hard?
Right.
In which case it looks like all the functional stuff you see and throwing 3 planes at everything. Or do I just want you to work hard? In which case I might be throwing you on some machines and doing the most dull-looking exercises.
Right.
But you're safe, so your body will let you access energy. But either of them are safe, and either of them are good. They're brave. You're brave. You come in, you're training, you're going to ache a little, you're going to feel more hungry, your body's going to change, people tell you about that. It's brave.
Right.
So that's great. And none of that's changed the whole time we've been in the industry. The only thing that's changed is the justification.
Yes. Yeah, it's like a wave, or
yeah. So whenever I trained you left-right symmetry and we did strength work or hands-on, you always felt worse. I always remember.
That's right. I do remember that, actually.
Yeah, I think we put your back out and Fit Pro, and I think part of that, I don't think any of that was physical. I think that was all apprehension. I think it was, this is not right. Like, I think you knew, and then you went defensive.
I don't know, but I feel like, I don't know, like everybody's got, I don't know, do you strive for symmetry, or?
No.
Yeah.
I did. Not according to the research, no.
Yeah.
Symmetry is useful as something, so the best I can come up with is that you have a personal bias of movement, and if you called that symmetry, if you called that your symmetry,
right,
if you get injured, you'd move away from your symmetry, and we want to get you back to where you were.
But what if I've got an unstable spine and my pelvis is rotated back to one way? Wouldn't it help to try to get a stable spine, all the vertebrae in alignment, to keep moving forward?
No, not according to the research.
Okay.
Well, okay. If your social group think that, your education thinks that, then exercises that make you perceive that would be beneficial.
Well, how about if I used to go long distance bike riding and my spine was unstable, my pelvis was rotated, I get sciatic pain down one side, and when I got that all cleaned up, everything subsided. The pain subsided.
So
good for me, right?
Yeah, good. That might have been that the movements you did to prepare yourself for the cycling allowed you to go and cycle. But I think the problem is in fitness we say this must equal that. Okay. But what if it was, when you hear a story of something that's definitely wrong. So I had clients with lower back pain, and I put them on the lower back extension machine and the ab curl machine, and I wouldn't look at symmetry, and they wouldn't change much, and they'd come back and say my back feels a lot better. And maybe it was because I gave them the attention they needed for the time they needed. Yeah. And that gave them the confidence to do everything else in their life well.
I hear that. Yeah. That's program design, my friend. That's experience design. Thinking.
Exactly. So, what I'd say is that nothing's off the table. Right. But I think it. Okay. So. We have this really strange term at Faster, and like everything at Faster, it came because we had a few beers and I was trying to explain a concept. And the concept was, if somebody's got something that they believe to be true and it's not damaging them, it's probably quite helpful for them, even if it's ridiculous to us. So we called that chicken shoes. As in, if someone was wearing chicken on their feet, something went wrong in that thought process. But if it's keeping their feet warm, if you take the chickens off them, they'll say, no, you've made it worse. Right. Because my feet were cold. I put my feet in these chickens, now they're warm. You've taken them off, it's worse. Right. And you might not have the resources to replace them. You're just saying that's a ridiculous thing to do. Right. So if someone comes to me, after reading the research on core stability and foam rolling and fascial release, and knowing now that there isn't really anything in it. On my research, on my personal terms, I wouldn't be comfortable passing that to a client. So, but if someone came in and said, look, I like to pre-activate my core, and then I like to foam roll my whole body, then train, I've also not seen anything the other way, that it causes damage or it causes a problem. Right. So they can have that.
That's fair.
But I just wouldn't choose to pass it to them. Right. And the other side, if you came to me and said, I've got sciatica from cycling and a bad back, I'd say you need to find a really good physio. Right. And then when through that, let me do the conditioning afterwards. Right. So I wouldn't.
Wow. So what are you doing right now, John? Are you teaching a lot or personal training? I know you're moving your family back to England, which is unfortunate that you can't be in both places. But what are you spending most of your time on now?
So I'm trying to get my trainers, my educators from Faster, really well known. So I'm kind of coaching presenters, and then I mainly do education. If I personal train, it's 1 or 2 sessions, and it's performance, and it'll be a trainer I've trained's client, and they just want to help, a helping hand. That's great. So mainly I'm doing silly cartoon videos for online, and I've been doing a lot of study into storytelling, because coming back to it was yourself and Scott who inspired that, build the design. Yeah. Well, everything I've read, the design is in the story. Yes. And so I took 2 approaches and said, I wonder if I could write the story so I know what an ideal story looks like. And then I thought, how do I learn that? So I went and learned some screenwriting and writing for plays.
That's brilliant.
And then the second part was, how do I make a story happen without being able to pre-plan it? And that's improvisation. and that's what you're seeing online. So
And you're doing that now. That sounds awesome.
Oh, it pushes you so far out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So you know me. I don't dance and I don't sing. And I think it was about 2 months into improv, I turned up, and they said, right, everyone in a circle. One person stand in the middle and start singing a hit. Anything. If you get the words wrong, you can sing anything, but I don't know the words. And the goal is, don't let them stay in for more than 2 or 3 lines, and then you step in. So to do that, you have to step in without a song, and it's just all the feelings you must feel when you walk in a personal training gym and you don't know anyone and you think you're out of shape.
Right.
I felt all those every song.
Yeah, terrifying, right?
Oh, but it was a good way. Like once you'd done it and you felt comfortable, even when you messed up,
right,
you'd let people play. So I didn't get involved in the first round. I kind of chickened out. Then the second round, I stood in and I sang the Proclaimers song, 500 Miles.
I love that song.
Everyone loves the song, and it's so good, and everyone.
And you know those lines? I mean, you could just do.
Yeah, and I just went for it, and everyone's dancing. I'm like, oh, I'm a superstar now. So I got my confidence up, but I think people had noticed I'd not jumped in, so they rescued me out of that because it was going well. The next one I jumped in, I sang I'm Too Sexy by Right Said Fred because I look a little bit like Right Said Fred, both of them. But what I forgot was there's a shirt and there's a cat and there's It Hurts. They're the 3 things you could come in on, and I don't know the first one. So we all sang something different, which left me somewhere in the song. So I was just stood there kind of march dancing, just randomly singing about bored people being sexy because I'd lost the words. And I mean, they left me in there for as long as they could get away laughing at me because that's what you do. But things like that, there's a game now we do with personal trainers, which is the same thing. So we get a circle of personal trainers, and the person in the middle does an exercise and calls the muscle. And then you have to tag them out, anyone, but you have to tag them out, and you have to either replace the exercise with another exercise for the same muscle, or keep the same exercise but change the muscle.
Brilliant. But
you've got to do it quick.
Right.
Because if you don't do it quick, everyone's working out too much.
Right.
And it's so much fun because you see the best trainers straight away, because they'll tag in and then you'll see there'll be a blank look and they'll be like, well, I've rescued them, what do I do now? And then another one of the really good trainers will start an exercise so they can follow, and you see real teamwork. That's
so cool.
It was a really fun game to play. So what I'm trying to do now is link everything I learn in improvisation and storytelling and bring it back to program design and exercise design, or lecturing and presenting for my trainers.
Wow. That's so cool. Okay, so the first thing I have to say is I know I need to talk to you again on another podcast, but I'm going to let you go.
Oh, okay.
All right? And I need to, we'll come visit soon.
Oh, that'd be perfect.
All right. Say hi to your mom.
I shall do.
All right. Thanks a lot, John.
Cheers.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye. Cheers.
Bye. Bye.